Well, it's almost 11:15. It's 11:14, so we'll wait just a moment in case there's somebody who's going to be on time. This class is the brain train for anybody who's in the wrong class. Is it like the beginning of the semester and you're
we're underway.
making sure? Yeah. Well, uh, okay. It's 11:15. So I'm Larry Wilson. I'm from the Southern California News Group, which is now 11 newspapers, now that we bought the Register in Orange County and the Press Enterprise in Riverside. So we're every paper in Southern California, which is defined for some reason to exclude San Diego. Every daily that isn't the Times. So I, long time Pasadenan, fourth generation Pasadenan. That's what I mostly care about, but I have functions elsewhere in Gold Line territory. And it's going to be really fun to be able to take the Gold Line someday from Pasadena to Claremont, and we'll hope that's in our time. But the point of this hour with these distinguished folks from various colleges and universities along the path is to talk about that future, the logistics of going from Art Center, and really, if you think about the Gold Line, you could be coming from downtown, you could be coming from SciArc, the architecture school downtown, and coming all the way out here. You could be coming from East LA College and coming all the way out here from that weird loop that the Gold Line makes. So we're going to have a general discussion after the presentations from each of the representatives from the colleges, and that would certainly, we would hope that there's time for your questions and comments if there are questions and comments. But each of the representatives from the colleges is going to talk for about 5 to 7 minutes on their own take on the brain train and what it means to their own institutions. And so I'll briefly, you've got their bios here. I'm not when I moderate things, I don't like to, unless they won the Nobel Prize yesterday. I don't like to.
Come on, Larry.
I don't like to go into all their accolades. Well, if you won the Pulitzer, that'd be okay too. But Dr. Jerry Perry is the president of Citrus College, which is sort of right in the middle, or will be in the middle of this brain train once it comes all the way out here. Now, of course, she's at the end of it, at the current eastern terminus. So Citrus was named one of the top 10 California community colleges by the Brookings Institute. She's got about 20,000 students and almost 800 staff there at Citrus, and she's going to come and tell us how the Gold Line is already influencing Citrus College. Jerry, welcome.
Thank you. Well, good morning and welcome. It's still morning, right? Okay. Well, thank you, Larry. We were hoping you wouldn't read all the bios. My colleague said he authored part of the Bob Dylan songs, so he didn't get a Nobel Peace Prize, but he's got some lyrics in there. So, well, telling you about the Gold Line and how it impacts Citrus College, I'm really pleased to let you know. I see I have some folks in the audience that are part of the Citrus College footprint, so I'll make sure that I don't change the name of the station, which is right near Citrus College. It's the APU Citrus College Station, and I usually like to change it to the Citrus College Station, but I see my colleague from APU, so I'm going to have to behave. Okay, so we're going to put the PowerPoint on. How many of you have been to Citrus College? Great. And if you haven't been to Citrus College, we'd love to have you come out for a tour, visit, or to take a class, or to come to the theater, or to one of our athletic events. Love to have you come out. Well, I want to thank Pomona College for hosting this, thank the Metro for putting this on today. We're pleased to be here. And we are always pleased to speak about Citrus College, but particularly about the Gold Line and its impact on Citrus College. I want to begin with the familiar adage of location, location, location. If I look out my window from Citrus College in my office, I can see the Gold Line station. And the Gold Line station is just across the street from Citrus College. And the Gold Line actually goes through our district, beginning with the western portion of our district, Monrovia, and I do see my colleague, Mary Ann from Monrovia. It goes from Monrovia to Duarte, Azusa, Glendora, and Claremont. That's our footprint. And right now with the Gold Line, it's taking all the way up to Azusa and right on the border of Glendora. So we're pleased about that. The station is literally right across the street from Citrus College. The new station, it opened about, I'd say about a month ago, and it's the APU Citrus College station, so students can just cross the street. A traffic signal was just put in, and this is a good thing for our students, and we had to remind them of how you cross and how you cross properly and wait for the light. So we're really pleased with that. In fact, on the right side, you can see a promotional piece from Citrus College, and we're now basically promoting the college along with the Gold Line, and that you could take the Gold Line. I do see someone else in the audience who I want to mention. We have our board president with us, Trustee Sue Keith. Sue? Trustee Keith represents the city of Claremont and does a great job representing Claremont. And if we don't get that train out to Claremont, we're all going to be in trouble because she wants that train to come out here. Just a little bit about Citrus College and the background. Citrus College is one of the 113 California community colleges. We're part of the California Community College system. We offer 90 degrees and certificate programs at the college, and we have close to 20,000 students, and we have roughly 700 faculty and staff at the college. Many students who come to the college are coming to the college for the wide variety of programs, everything from career technical education to courses and programs that align with transfer. Many of our students transfer to the UC system, the CSU system, private colleges, the Pomona colleges, and beyond. We anticipate a larger amount of students coming to us with the Gold Line just opening. We're basically in the early stages of the Gold Line opening, especially the access and the street just coming to Citrus College. So we don't have a number on it just yet, but we're hearing from our students. We did survey them, and those who are riding the Gold Line had some nice things to say, like, can you give us a free pass? We love it, but now we want it for free. So we got them the train, we got them the street there, now they want the pass, which is a good thing for us. A little bit more about the college. We are the oldest community college in Los Angeles County. The college was founded in 1915, and we just celebrated our centennial anniversary last year. We take a lot of pride in being the oldest community college. We say we're the oldest community college with the youngest superintendent president. My son says, look in the mirror when you say that, and you may not say it anymore. We have 104 acres on our campus, 44 buildings, and we have 8 outdoor athletic facilities, which are just beyond beautiful. And lots of students come to us also for our athletic programs. We just recently, and this is quite important to our community, the surrounding area of Citrus College, we just opened a new visual arts building at the college. And literally, if you're standing at the train station, you just look across the street and you can see the new visual arts 3-story building that I think is going to be a centerpiece that draws the community in for programs and services and things like lectures and exhibits in our art gallery. So we're really pleased, and we think this will have an impact on the community as well. The college has been advocating for the Gold Line for a long time. This is my 9th year at the college, and my board president reminds me quite often that the college community has been advocating for the Gold Line for a very long time, long before I got there. But the college did see the benefit of having the Gold Line Metro extend to Citrus College. It would be convenient, it would be accessible, and it would expand opportunities for our students. So they were very active for many years. Student rallies, going out before different boards, going out to get the funding, the legislation for it. It was a concerted effort, and I think people really had the vision and the wisdom to see what this would mean for the future in terms of our students and the community. All you have to do is ride the 210 freeway to know that this is a good thing. I just wish it were this far out because I live on the eastern portion of the district and it doesn't help me yet, but it's nice to be at Citrus and to jump on it and to get into LA at this point. So our board was visionary, got involved in terms of advocacy. We do believe that with this gold line now coming out to Citrus College, things will change dramatically. We serve 5 different unified school districts, and those unified school districts begin all the way on the western end with Monrovia. They go to Duarte, Azusa, Glendora, and Claremont. We're imagining, and we're starting the relationships right now for concurrent enrollment, early college, and imagine the students who are at Monrovia High School who we're working with right now, who will get on the train after they finish their classes at Monrovia and come to Citrus College to take a college class, which will count for high school and college. Right now, our students at Duarte can take 32 units of Citrus College credit, which transfers on to the university. So just imagine from the perspective of the school districts that fall along the gold line, who they can now, the students get on the gold line and actually take a college class that counts for both college and high school. So I know that our unified school district partners are very excited about the potential. There's also the potential for others to come out on the gold line, whether it's community members or also the opportunity for internships, partnerships as well along the gold line. In 2012, Citrus College faculty and staff signed a pledge to be a college of completion. So we have a big focus on getting students through in terms of their degree aspirations, degree, certificate, transfer. And as a result of this, we're really pleased to let you know that we're number 12 in the United States as ranked by Hispanic Outlook in Higher Education for the number of degrees awarded to Hispanic students. So with the gold line, we feel that our boundary, our district, which is from Monrovia to Claremont, is only going to be broadened because we are focused on student success and completion as our overarching goal. We basically focus on bringing students in, and students come in and they're part of our program that's called IWCC, and it stands for I Will Complete College. So now they have access to a college that will help them get through their educational goals. That Citrus College Station, we feel opens, he's listening, APU Citrus College Station has opened the door to education even wider. We have a great record with transfer, and I think it really is important to mention it to you because the gold line will now help us with transfer. Students can actually complete their degree at Citrus College and have access to all the universities and colleges which are on the gold line and beyond, getting into LA. Citrus College was recently awarded the Champion for Higher Education Award by the Campaign for College Opportunity. We ranked 7th in the state of California for the number of students who completed an associate degree for transfer. We feel that this number will go up with more students having access with the gold line. When we look at the gold line, the college is very committed to fostering sustainability in terms of teaching our students about it, in terms of our policies and practices as well. With the gold line, of course, there's a reduction in carbon emissions. It's more cost efficient to take the gold line. There's less traffic on the freeways, and every college president loves to solve the parking problem on campus. So if they can take the gold line in, we're happy. It's a better use of their time. Hopefully they won't just have their, music playing, but they'll use it to ride and study at the same time and use their time more wisely. We also feel that it will help our students. We have internships with many institutions, and now they could take the training, get to their internships. Also, as they have opportunities for jobs when they graduate, there's more accessibility to get into Los Angeles with the Gold Line. We feel so strongly about the Gold Line that we're even marketing the Gold Line on our promotional pieces. We have a theater at Citrus College, the Ha Performing Arts Center, which holds 1,400 and puts on major shows. We now market the Performing Arts Center that you can get there very easily by taking the Gold Line in, and you can come in for a pre-theater event by just taking the Gold Line, and since you won't be stuck in traffic, you can come to the pre-theater party. So that's something else that we're pushing as well. We think that the future looks very bright for us in terms of raising the quality of education for students in the area. The Gold Line, with its extension out further east, will basically give students the opportunity to not only go to Citrus College, but to transfer to other institutions. Our students right now work on projects with other institutions where they do master's level and doctoral level research. They do STEM research, and they're at a variety of institutions. Be great for them now to just be able to get on the Gold Line and go out to a host of institutions. In fact, it's going to be 15 major institutions that will be connected with the Gold Line. So we're really pleased and looking forward to the eastern end having the Gold Line. And you know how the saying goes, build it and they will come. Well, we feel if you build it, they will ride. So basically, we want to welcome you all aboard the Gold Line to come out to Citrus College, take a class, come out for a performance, or come out to see our athletic teams compete. So we think it's going to have an even bigger impact as we get the next portion of it, and I'm pleased to share that with you today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Sometimes it seems, for those of us who are involved with one or another of the Claremont Colleges, that not the twain shall not meet, but the seven don't meet, that there's anarchy, that these are 7 different colleges that are pulling in different ways, but it's our next speaker's job to make sure that doesn't happen. And in fact, Stig Skog is the CEO of the consortium that makes these colleges and universities work together. There's 34 different shared services that he oversees here at the Claremont Colleges. And so he knows how important it's going to be to get the brain train out this way, and we'll look forward to Stig's thoughts.
Thank you so much. So my quick question is, who's in charge of the Claremont Colleges?
You are.
No, there's nobody in charge. No, but it is a wonderful partnership, and I've been here for 2 years, helping to play a role in getting the most out of these really amazing institutions here. And on behalf of on behalf of the Claremont Colleges, I want to welcome you here and thank you all for coming out and being able to take advantage of our facilities here at Pomona College, and thanks to Pomona for being able to provide those. It's great to have this out here. So I will tell you, I grew up in the Chicago area, and maybe you can tell from my accent, but so I've only been out here a couple years, and I can tell you that public transportation is a core component of how people get around and live and take advantage of, the city of Chicago and the surrounding area. And so even without knowing much about this opportunity before I came out in terms of bringing the Gold Line on here, it's like I can tell you firsthand how transformative it is when you have great public transportation, not only for each of us as faculty and staff, but also for students. And so I'm happy to talk a little bit about how we think the Claremont Colleges will really benefit from something like this here out our way. So let's see if I can unmute. So just a little bit about the Claremont Colleges, if you're not as familiar. So it is true, there are 7 independent institutions, all have separate presidents, separate boards of directors, and such. And each of them have a slightly different mission and focus. And we really have 2 segments. We have 5 undergraduate institutions that you see here, and then also 2 graduate institutions. And so what you could imagine is there really are very different kinds of elements related to the student experience and the student needs as it relates to an undergraduate experience versus the graduate. And I want to touch on those because I think what you're going to see here as a theme is that, believe the Gold Line is going to benefit us in at least 3 different areas. So one is, of course, basic transportation and vehicle usage, access. And access, I mean, in terms of a lot of different things, in terms of internships and job opportunities, field trips and such, and then also broader community engagement. So I'm going to touch on a few of those things as I go through here. But the other thing I guess I just note about what's unique about the Claremont Colleges is that we grew up together. We created each other. And so on one hand, although we are separate legal entities, we are truly a family. And like families, sometimes we get along better than others. But anyways, the other thing that's really interesting is we are co-located. We're here within 1 square mile, but we draw, people from across the world here. It's just an amazing place, and you can look up the various rankings and such of our institutions, but it is really an amazing thing that has been created here over the last 100+ years in terms of having so many, nationally ranked, highly ranked private institutions all in one place here in this quaint town of 35,000 people, which I'm happy to be a resident of. The consortium was created in 1925 as a mechanism to coordinate and collaborate across these institutions and to represent them. And we have about 3,000 faculty and staff and about a little over 8,000 students across the 7 institutions. So let's talk a little bit about the first year, sort of just transportation and vehicles. And, there's a few things people fight over in higher education, and there's 2 things mainly. That is office space and parking, right? They want to fight to the death on those things, and those of you who've been in higher education probably know a little bit about that. But we are challenged within our footprint of how is it that we provide access for vehicles on our campuses. And what's helpful is that our undergraduate experience is primarily residential, and we've gone so far as actually to have 4 of our institutions basically say you can't bring a vehicle here in your first year, and one of them even your first and second year. And there are also, so on the undergraduate side, again, many of them are residential. They live here on campus. It means that we have them here, and they have then limited opportunities to get off-site of this outside of Claremont. On the graduate institution side, it's a very different kind of population. It is people who are doing part-time work, who live and have jobs and such. And so transportation into our community is a really important thing. And the Gold Line can certainly help not only in terms of, from a budgetary standpoint, a low-cost solution, but also just the pressures and such on parking and such and traffic more broadly. From a sort of a broader sense of how it is that this can enhance the student experience. Again, since many of our students don't have vehicles and are encouraged not to, this is, of course, going to allow us to have not only our students on their own go out and explore all of the assets of the LA area, but also our faculty and staff to have another tool for them to use to be able to take advantage of things here in the LA area. And you see sort of a quote from one of our deans and dean of the faculty at Harvey Mudd. It's not only going to make it, I would say, easier, but more cost-effective, and therefore it will also just increase, I think, the number of opportunities for us to be able to provide these social and cultural opportunities for students, which is just a critical part of the student experience here at the Claremont Colleges. Many of our courses have requirements as it relates to field trips to apply what they're learning in the classroom and such, and even, especially at the graduate programs, internship requirements. And so, for one of our institutions, our Keck Graduate Institute, we actually have a lot of international students who may not have even a driver's license and such, being able to, get around on their own. And so they have these mandatory requirements for different rotations and such in the various programs that they're in, and this will open up opportunities for them and for the employers that they serve in order to help create partnerships that'll benefit our students and obviously the organizations they're working with as well. And so we see a lot of opportunities for us in that area. And then, we also need them to, at some point, they're going to want to get a job. And so how can we help them get access to, for interviews, to networking events and those types of things, and also to help also the employers have even better access to Claremont so that they can be coming out and becoming more familiar with us and really engaging with our students and understanding the wonderful things that we have here. So we see it really as a mechanism to sort of marry, in this case, sort of all of the different kinds of employers with the students that are here at the Claremont Colleges. And then, I just, finally, and some of these things are things that you're going to hear, over and over again, is that I think we all know traffic is bad out here. It is challenging. We have many people who live, our faculty and staff who live along the 210 corridor. It is always something when we're recruiting folks to come even to these, very prestigious institutions, is the commute becomes a meaningful part of the equation for people, cost-wise, time-wise, time away from their families, and we have a lot of evening activities at the institutions like this. And so this is going to create, I think, just a wonderful opportunity for us to have better, an increasingly diverse, less stress set of faculty and staff who are not in traffic all the time as another benefit from this, and obviously will be contributing as well to overall traffic and, of course, cleaner air and such within this area. So we see, again, this opportunity for greater access for our students, better student engagements, and, of course, the impacts on traffic and the environment as three key areas for us where we see tremendous benefit for getting the Gold Line out to Claremont. And we look forward to being a key part of helping to make that happen. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Stig. My father is a Pomona graduate, and he is forever complaining about me getting late out here because of traffic on the 210. Why can't you get here on time? Well, sometimes, Dad, the 210 is like 5 times worse than other times. At 88, he doesn't quite understand that. My mother's a Scripps graduate, so I feel particularly at home out here in Claremont. And once, because of that traffic, I made her late to a dinner with Molly Ivins on campus here. They were the only 2 liberals from the state of Texas, and so she felt very close to Molly, and they got along famously. Once I got her here, if she'd lived long enough to see the Gold Line come to Claremont, then we wouldn't have embarrassed her in front of her fellow liberal. But the college that I feel really close to these days is the Art Center College of Design, because I live on the same street that its main original Pasadena campus is on in the Linda Vista Hills. But there's some people who apparently still don't know that there's also another campus, and Roland Homer, who's our next speaker, is in charge as an Associate Vice President of Facilities and Campus Planning at Art Center of this great new transition. I just ran into an Arcadia City Councilwoman who said, "Well, what would Art Center have to do with the Gold Line? They're not close to it." And I said, "Oh yeah." So the new campus, the downtown campus that's near the terminus of the Pasadena Freeway, is right by the Fillmore station, and they're talking about putting student housing for the first time in the history of Art Center, and it's Roland's really managing this transition that's lessened traffic in my residential neighborhood and has made kids who don't like going up the hill very happy to be down at the new campus. So Roland, we'll look forward to your ideas about how the Gold Line's affecting you all already.
Great. Thank you, Larry. Thank everyone for allowing us the opportunity to speak here today. Yeah, I was thinking about it as I was listening. We're the old kids on the Gold Line. We've been there since 2004. Although that has actually changed over the years as we've expanded. And what you're going to see a little bit of today is how we envision us enacting our future with the Gold Line. And as I put together my presentation, I started to go through the ideas about what to show to represent the school and the transformation that we're going through. And I ran across an alumni image that represented probably a little bit of the ideas of transformation that embody what we do. No better than the Man of Steel himself, right? So Zack Snyder, a film alum, produced the movie recently. And as I sat there thinking about how the Man of Steel represents going from ordinary to extraordinary, and the powers of transforming steel and so on, I started to think a little bit about the news I recently heard about the '84 Olympics and the 2024 Olympics, and I thought about our alum that actually provided advertising during that period of time. And then I realized that in 1984, most of the world realized that, you know, we live in an area that has an endless summer. And from there, I actually realized that it was lunchtime, and I started to think about my relationship with meat and the pop surrealism in the galleries of some of our alumni. From there, I realized I was also sitting at my glass and steel desk designed by an alumni, staring at a product of an old but new company and thinking about how they've transformed in the world. At this point, I realized it was lunchtime or getting close to lunchtime, and was listening to the music on my jawbone when I realized that the color of it reminded me of an ad that I saw that morning on my commute to work in my tiny little car for a vehicle of the future. And I realized that I had just spent my entire day thinking really about my weekend at the beach. So this is a little bit of what we do. We take people and we teach them to transform the everyday into extraordinary things. We do that in our undergraduate programs. We do that through our graduate programs listed here. We do it in all ages. We have Art Center Night, kids, teens, teachers. We teach people how to teach design through education and not just looking at design for creating products. So eventually I got out of that mindset and I said, oh yeah, I got to be talking about this. So I came back to the idea of what is our master plan. And for most of you that aren't familiar, we do have a campus above the Rose Bowl on about 160 acres. We've existed up on the hillside of Pasadena for about 40 years of our 80 plus years existence. In 2002, we purchased property at the south end of Pasadena along the Gold Line when it opened up. Today, I'm mostly going to speak about our South Campus. But to understand the South Campus, you have to understand the culture of the institution and the culture of our hillside campus. It's a building set in the hills above the Rose Bowl, and the main access is through the vehicle. The building was designed to be experienced by driving under the building. So the historic shot of when it was actually built, you can see this amazing black monolith up on the hillside, and that you would experience it in the car, very much as if you were experiencing Los Angeles at the time in a vehicle. It was all about the vehicle, and I can't say that we didn't provide to that culture through our transportation designers and so on. And this current glass and steel building is our own, made from our own designer, Craig Elwood, our own Man of Steel, and he led that culture. And we have to come to terms with how it's going to change in the future. And just as our trees have grown and the buildings faded a little bit, we're actually looking to go down and create an area around these 4 pillars. We've transformed our learning environments through our buildings. We're looking to extend our community beyond just Pasadena, beyond the LA area, and we're looking to invigorate the campus with student living and incorporate sustainable ideas around transportation as well as around environmental practices. And to do that, you have to look at where we are actually sitting. So for those that aren't familiar with our South Campus, and one of these works. So this is the end of the 110 freeway. We own 7 acres here. We have the Fillmore Station, hopefully to be renamed soon to the Huntington Art Center Station, Delmar Station, and Memorial Station. We're working with the Huntington Hospital Group and the homeowners, property owners in that area to transform the South Fair Oaks specific plan into a health, education, and art district that would be influenced and supported by this station here. We run our shuttles between our two campuses down Raymond Avenue, and we stop at each of those Gold Line stops and pick up our own students and faculty and drop them off there daily. This has actually had an interesting impact, which is that we no longer have van pools, because everybody that took the van pools were riding in down the 210. So as the line came out to Citrus College, all of our folks jumped on that line instead of driving in a van. It freed up 3 or 4 parking spaces. So, there are some people that are very happy about that. So let me take you into South Campus. So here's our history. 2002, we purchased this property here. This is a former wind tunnel testing facilities built in the 1940s, the partnership between Caltech and the major aeronautical companies at the time. It transferred ownership, became various uses. Decor Appliances eventually bought it, and then we purchased it and transformed it into our South Campus. At that time, we thought our expansion was here with a deal with the city for the old power plant. And then what happened is, in 2012, this parcel came up open. And you got to remember, in 2002, we went to the post office at that time and said, hey, can we buy your property? And they said, we're the post office. We don't sell property. So lo and behold, in 2012, they did sell that parcel, and we renovated it in 2014. So in 2014, I was on this path to really get into the city. I had this whole master plan built out. And as soon as I was literally ready to walk into the city door, this property came online. This is 1111 Arroyo Avenue. It's a 6-story commercial office building. It's the gateway to Pasadena, literally the end of the 110 freeway. And through a very quick real estate transaction, we were able to acquire the building. And it led us to rethink our entire master plan, and it really led us to think about, how do we cross over the Gold Line? It's no longer that we're interacting it through typical means of somebody arriving on the Gold Line. This is a physical intersection through our campus. And part of that conversation, we started to look at how our campus is actually orientated. So we're 1,500 feet long on the Raymond Street, and we're orientated north and south. So when we build this up, we're going to have very little outdoor space, very little courtyards or outdoor space that's not shaded by building. So we were trying to find an opportunity to create outdoor space. And
Roland, show them on that where the Gold Line, for those who are out of
so
campus,
this is the
that's
Gold Line right here.
Goes right behind the campus there, yeah. Because that's the end of
Right.
the Bastion Freeway to the...
So you can see this is 341 feet of just Gold Line frontage on both sides of the campus. Right now, we have to walk around through the little sidewalk here to get across. So how do you get over, or how do you get around that? We came up with an idea. The one area we knew we would never build was basically here, above the Gold Line itself. And it presented an opportunity. And when you take this dimension and you think about a building potentially being on the corner, it actually equals out to what a normal sized quad would be on any university. And so we started to play with this idea about outdoor open space. And then we got into a process in which we said, well, what does that look like? So we went through 3 concept phases. One was to look at the historic nature of Pasadena, and there was once this California Cycleway, and an elevated bicycle platform that ran from Pasadena to Los Angeles, and we knew we had to deal with internal circulation, so we created a plan, and we investigated an idea about what would it look like to actually create a cycleway through our entire campus that would allow buildings to open up to each other, that you could actually jump on skateboards, scooters, alternate vehicles like that, or you can transfer material from the student store to your studio. Then the next concept we looked at was elevated quads. This idea that if we've got to go over the track down here, what does that start to look like across the entire site? And we played a little bit with it, and we extended that all the way up to Del Mar Station. But in this scenario, we envisioned a world where we could actually create an entire high line effect across the campus and connect all of the buildings. The third concept we looked at was, well, what does a campus look like if we activated the street? If everything was, if all those open spaces and everything was along the streetscape, what does that look like? And it led us to a whole conversation around Raymond Avenue itself. So Raymond Avenue, for those of you that don't know, it's 4 lanes wide, 2 lanes of parking or 2 side parking. It's the thoroughfare for basically all the local residents. When Arroyo is backed up, you can still travel as fast as you want on Raymond Avenue, except for the lights, right? So we said we need a street diet. We need a pedestrian-oriented environment. We want to green it. We talked about sustainability. We talk about the idea of how do you collect water off of that. We talk about the idea of removing vehicles, putting in bike paths, and so on. At the end of the day, when we took these 3 ideas and presented them to the president and to the department chairs, we created this plan, which is kind of a culmination of all 3 ideas. What you have here is, this is the 1111 Arroyo building. Here's our wind tunnel building. Down here is our post office renovated building. We have a mixed-use building between these 2 with an elevated quad with studio space, gallery space, public space on the first 2 floors, parking beneath, elevated housing blocks. The idea about giving housing blocks individual identity so people can actually start to create culture and community around housing, about living on campus. At this south end, we created and flanked the entire site with 2 blocks of housing above cafe and cafeteria, bookstore, galleries. And then we elevated that opening here into what we call our quad, where we take up a greenscape that goes up and over the tracks and actually connects into the 3rd floor of the 1111 Arroyo building. That's how high we have to get up over those tracks, which is 30 feet. In the middle of that, we put in this idea of the cycleway that would run on the 2nd floor through every building and come down and drop down in front of our 870 post office building. And all of these areas being opened up or programmed with art or gallery, outdoor art, gallery, sculpture space, courtyards for making and creating attached to studio environments, and again, the ideas about what it would be like to have a traditional type quad for the college. When we think about Raymond Avenue, we think about how we're not trying to create an isolated campus. We want to create a neighborhood. We want to create a campus. This is something that involves community. It's a way that you open your doors. It's a way that you show people how to access your site. And you could see this orange ribbon that goes through and creates all the public frontage. And the idea that this is programmed with areas that people can come in, the general public, the school, and so on and so forth. In addition, with the idea that Raymond Avenue gets a street diet, and we're able to green that as well. We deal with transportation in a variety of ways, one of which is our transportation hub. This is an area that's focused on not only where the shuttle would turn around, it's under our quad. You can imagine a bike share program, zip cars, and so on. But it also gives you a lens to see the Gold Line actually passing under the quad. And behind it, this little black box, is a stepped gallery on the Arroyo side coming over here, which connects the building to our Peter Mullen gallery for transportation, which is sort of like the history of vehicles. So in a little tiny lens, you get this sliver shot of the history of transportation in our society. Then as we look at the elevated quads, we imagine in an urban environment, what does it mean to greenscape an urban environment, and how do we live within that? And again, the art courtyards, the sculpture gardens, the idea that community gardens themselves, right? We have a small community garden on our Hillside campus. How do we encourage people that live in these towers to be able to take advantage of that as well? The idea of movie nights on the quad, right? Using the quad or the areas to be able to become part of exhibition. And then we hit the whole thing over the head with energy. We've done an analysis of the entire plan, and it says that we should be able to achieve over 50% energy reduction over business as usual. meaning through photocells, operable windows, right? The idea that you can actually open your window in a 6-story or 7-story building. These are all standard ideas across the industry, but we're just saying if we holistically employ them, how can we change the environment and reduce our footprint completely? In addition, we look at water, and water is a huge component here because the city is actually putting in a potable water project that runs along Glenarm. So in a couple of years, there'll be a line here that we could actually take all of our water off campus, treat it on site, and put it into a larger connected potable water system. So at the end of putting all this together, I figured I should probably talk a little bit about our future with the Gold Line. And I could talk about, yes, we look to, people to arrive on the Gold Line. We could talk about reduction of cars and so on. But actually, I'll leave with this image. This is Doug Aiken and his station-to-station event that he did in 2013, where he took a transcontinental train across the country, bringing music, art, and film into the middle of America and having conversations around art. The Gold Line for us isn't just a way to get to campus. It's a way to actually interact with the larger community. We see that we have 1,500 feet of Gold Line frontage, and we have graphic designers, illustrators, fine artists that are looking and waiting for the opportunity for the infrastructure to be able to communicate with the peoples on those trains. So we see this as our future. This is our extended classroom. We're embracing it. We're going to live above it. We look forward to a future where we might even be able to transform the train. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Roland. It's a fascinating presentation. It's really great the way you're integrating the Gold Line right into the middle of your campus. So our next two and last two presenters are going to present together. Do Kim and Rick Wilson are both professors of urban planning at Cal Poly Pomona, another Gold Line affected school, and with expertise in sustainable transit and in parking. And so I'm in a long email argument with my Pomona College father about reverse angle in parking. He won't give up arguing with me. Every morning I wake up, I have to argue with him, so I'm transferring those emails to Rick. We're finishing up with two real academic experts on planning, and we'll really look forward to their thoughts about there's a room for skepticism here. Their thoughts about how light rail can transform, or does it overpromise? So, professors, let's hear.
Hi, everyone. It's my pleasure to share this presentation with you today. As Larry introduced, and I collaborate with my dear colleague, Rick Wilson. So this presentation has actually two parts. My part is more kind of a direct analysis of travel behavior of the Cal Poly Pomona community. So, and Dr. Wilson gonna give you some general perspective on how millennial generations see the transits and behave. So my portion is kind of more analytical study from the Cal Poly Pomona's perspective on transit and transportation in general. So with a quick glance, Cal Poly Pomona is famous or notorious for the commuting schools, surrounded by I-10 and Highway 57. And as you can see the campus map here, you see the large parking space, but still parking is always challenging. And major corridor to the campus is always, has a congestion every morning. So it's very, very notorious sort of like a trend, commuting the oriented campus and colleges. But so the perspective from the Gold Line transit and commuting oriented campus doesn't get along very well. So I want to double check, is that still true? So what I did is that I analyzed 2 survey data. One is like a faculty staff annual commuting survey. It's kind of mandatory survey for the faculty and staff. So as you can see, 98% of faculty response to the survey. I didn't have any response rate for the staff because according to the university record, we have about 1,400 steps. But as you can see, more than 1,400 steps response to that survey because that 1,400 only mean full-time steps, but that include full-time and part-time everybody. So that's why we have more response rates than number of full-time steps. And separate from the faculty staff annual commute survey, students government actually called ASI, they conducted their own survey for the students' commuting behavior. So I analyzed the 2 different surveys and summarized the result here. So starting with like a commuting distance, actually in 2009, average commuting distance in this country is about 12 miles. But as you can see, the faculties and staffs is a little more than 12 miles. The Cal Pomona's community is a little more than 12 miles of commuting distance. But the national average is average from the entire country. So take a consideration of this geographical location of the campus, which is then the very large metropolitan area, and a lot of traffic here. So the travel distance is a little longer than national average. That's not a surprising factor. And I analyzed sort of spatial distribution of where they live. So as you can see, large proportion of faculty, staff, and students lives in the 10-mile buffer from the campus. So in general, they live in this 10-mile buffer. But if you guys take a look at details, slight variation is going on. Faculty more concentrated in this north-south corridor, and staffs goes more San Bernardino County area, and students are more kind of concentrated in this LA County, like Baldwin Park, West Covina areas. It's slightly different spatial distribution is going on here. And I also took a look at the commuting mode they chose. So obviously driving alone, obviously driving alone is the main primary transportation mode for everyone. But as you can see, the carpooling from faculty and staff, majority is actually staffs, is much higher than national averages, and public transportation uses from the students is much higher than national averages. So commuting campus, it's not actually so true in this case. One thing actually I want to kind of point it out is that this students' population is I took a look at only the off-campus students. So if I add the students who live on campus, the bicycle walking percentage will be much higher than what graph shows. And if we take a look at current public transportation service around the campus, as you can see, the student populations, gets along very well with the existing bus service. And if I add all Cal Pomona community, like faculty, staff, and students, it's a little, lack of service going on in these north-south corridors. So I took a look at actually the percent of people who living in this corridor, the bus service corridor. So, staffs, more than half of staff is living in this corridor, and more than 30% of the students are living in this corridor. So there is huge potential for the public transportation ridership around the campus. And I was also really wondering, is there any difference between public transit users and driving their personal vehicles? I took a look at it, but I was not able to find any differences. So the dashed line here is like the overall mode share of automobile and overall mode share of public transportation. So I was expecting that people who make, multiple trip per day to the campus, or people, make commute more often per week to the campus, or people drive longer to the campus, may depends on automobile more, but it was not so true. As you can see here, the bus users go also over even if they get further away from the campus. And then when they have, when they have a chance to come to the campus more often, they use more public transportation. So the gut feeling that I learned from this analysis is that if there is public transportation service available, students are gonna use it no matter how complicated trip they're gonna make it to the campus. And students also has very positive perspective on public transportation. So 19% of students says they are considering using the bus service. I mean, if you take a look at, if you remember, only 9% is the public transportation mode share, it almost doubles. And when they think about rail transit, at this moment, Metrolink is only available rail transit. Almost 41% of students there consider to use the Metrolink service. And also, the students who has experience with the bus service, they are willing to pay more. So this is a very positive experience from the public transit service here. And future traffic transit, public transportation transit, I just had this Gold Line extension here. So I had by phase, and I was kind of analyzing how many % of people lives around this Gold Line stations. So Foothill Transit Phase 2 that we're talking about here, from Azusa Pacific University and Citrus College to the Malovia, right? All the way to Malovia. So that's as you can see, large % of faculty staffs and even students' population live along this corridor. So it's very obvious this Gold Line extension going to bring a very positive influence on the Cal Poly Pomona campus. Only the actually question is that the nearest station from the Cal Poly Pomona campus is San Dimas station, which is about 3 miles away from the campus. So a huge challenge and homeworks for the Cal Poly Pomona campus is how we're going to connect campus to the nearest stations. So that's my portion of presentation. And Dr. Wilson going to continue the presentation.
Thanks, Doe. I stand between you and lunch, I think, so I will move along. Oops, wrong way. So my first charge was to do a literature review on what we know about millennial travel behavior. There's a lot of popular discourse about what millennials are like and what they're doing, so I wanted to look into that. I think the popular story is this generation is embracing urban places and multimodal transportation, and that therefore maybe urban areas are going to be the focus in the future and suburban areas must transform to become attractive to millennials. They have a generation that have grown up with mobile phones. They're getting driver's licenses less frequently when they turn 16. Some of them prefer urban experiences, and of course they've experienced the Great Recession, which in some cases has delayed their progression through stages of becoming employed, moving out of the house, and getting married and having children. And there is evidence that their VMT, that's vehicle miles traveled, per person has decreased for the 20 to 29 year age group between 2001 and 2009. So, researchers, when they look at an overall number like that, have to look at what makes it up. And so there's 3 things. Life cycle effects. These are changes every generation goes through as you get older and buy a house and have a family. Period effects are one-time things like our Great Recession. And cohort effects are true and lasting changes. So, and also we need to think about how millennials in urban areas and suburban areas are behaving. So it's kind of a complicated table. So I can tell you sort of the bottom line. There is evidence that millennials are choosing central cities, choosing to drive less. There are some neighborhoods where more people walk and travel by transit than car. There's a policy shift across the region towards active transportation and transit. And we know that shared mobility is creating a revolution in how people behave and may lead to less car ownership. So those are all popular narratives about changes afoot. There are some qualifications, though, and these have been brought out by some scholars at UCLA have been studying millennial travel behavior. The number of young people in suburbs is growing faster than in older urban areas. Most young travelers still use the automobile. Those walk transit neighborhoods are only 4% of the neighborhoods in the country. The downsides of driving a car in terms of greenhouse gas emissions and pollution may be affected by use of electric vehicles or alternative fuels. And the shared mobility thing is strongest in urban areas, and so seeing how that plays out in suburban areas is something we have to watch. So they concluded the eulogy for cars in the suburbs is premature. The main question is, as millennials, if they're delaying life cycle events such as moving out of the house and getting married and having a family, will they behave like all the other generations did? Or is there really a sea change here in which a different pattern of lifestyle and transportation will emerge? With that, I'd like to shift to our geography, and these are some of the opportunities I see. If millennials prefer urban areas, the older urban areas in the suburbs can reassert their central role, places like El Monte and Pomona. We have this rail transit backbone being created, which can lead to land use restructuring. We have land in the sense of malls that need to be repurposed, places where we've built too much parking, and low-intensity uses. It's not greenfield, but it is redevelopable. The TOD movement is fantastic. We also have wide streets that we can repurpose to bus rapid transit lanes or bike lanes or other community uses. And significantly, Dr. Kim mentioned the distance from Cal Poly to the Gold Line stations. The need to use bus rapid transit to connect between rail systems and major activity systems, major activity centers.
We know TOD, transit-oriented development, but what's BRT?
Oh, excuse me, bus rapid transit. That's giving a bus an exclusive lane. Actually, the picture I showed you earlier was Mexico City Metrobus. Has an exclusive lane. You walk into this facility. You pay as you walk so people can enter and exit. The buses come
So
every...
it's like the Orange Line in the valley.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Oop, wrong way. We have challenges of connection. Doe mentioned something. There's physical and topographical barriers to active transportation access for all directions to our campus except from the city of Pomona. I'm not going to review these all because I am standing between you and lunch. But there's also opportunities. 52,000 students between us and Mount Sac. The existence of nearby rail transit. Better connection to Pomona. Bus rapid transit on arterial streets. Real-time ride matching. Our students, it's hard to get them in a regular carpool, but real-time ride matching is you make a match the moment you're ready to make the trip. Then finally, we have a movement of students, staff, faculty, administration for better transportation access to the campus. Last year, one of my colleagues, Gwen Urie, organized a Stand Up for Transportation Day with Foothill's cooperation. We have many impetus for change. We've had tragedies of cyclists being killed that led to concern about bike safety, ped safety. We have our neighbor, the city of Pomona, recently adopting an active transportation plan, which is very exciting for us. Foothill Transit is authorized to pursue an MOU for a transit pass with us. So a lot of exciting things going on. The main thing is the pressure for change is coming from every level. So my conclusion is we should plan like the Foothill Gold Line is already here. Plan like it's here tomorrow. That means getting our campus ready for it, right? Getting the connectivity on the campus working, thinking about how we're going to make that connection to the Pomona North Station or the other station, and then work on the things we need to do now just to build the base of transit users, because as Doe's survey suggests, there's a significant upside potential. I'm a transportation planner. I'm worried about the environment, greenhouse gases, pollution, those kinds of things. But this whole other dimension has emerged in the last year with some faculty advocacy, which is the cost of education. We're very worried about the cost of textbooks, right? And we're trying to reduce the cost of textbooks. But here we have this huge cost to students of owning a car and parking, and us building the parking for it. So this educational access, educational equity issue, and sustainability issue are coming together to propel change at Cal Poly Pomona. Thanks very much for your attention.
Are there already plans for a bikeway or a shuttle to go to campus from the San Dimas station? None that you know of, formal plans.
Yeah, the most exciting bikeway thing I think now is a bikeway to downtown Pomona.
Right.
Along a channel. But
Yeah.
no, I think we've got to evaluate. For us, we do run shuttles to the North Pomona station right now. It's expensive for the university to do, so I think a partnership with Foothill or others to make that work more efficiently would
Yeah.
help us.
Well, we did go a little bit over, so questions can be asked, and you can approach the panelists at lunch or after here. But thank you to all of you for your fascinating presentations, and let's meet up on the Gold Line soon.
That
Nice to meet you. And I know